Hello, everybody. Welcome to the You is Silent, We Aren't podcast right here in Staunton, Virginia. I'm so excited to tell just the stories of the passionate people and the amazing people right here in Staunton and just like the awesome people. It's what we're great at here. So I am so happy to be joined here. And it was like in our claws that we created in our heads. The very first person had to be Sarah Lynch.
That's an honor, and thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Sarah, you're the owner of Baja Bean right here in Staunton, and also the founder and mastermind behind Queen City Mischief and Magic, and also just all kinds of awesome stuff. So you want to just tell us a little bit about you?
Okay. I just turned 50, and I've been doing Baja since I was 20.
Wow.
And over here in Staunton for 27 years. And so I was 23 when I came, and I think you and I have discussed, it's almost hard to believe how nice and sweet this town is. When Ron sent me over here from Charlottesville, he would call, every other day or whatever and ask how things were. And I'm like, I feel like these people are like programmed nice. Like it's not like there's something in the water. They're all on some medicine. But it just turned out that everybody was just really, really nice. And so it's been like the best happy accident of my life to end up here.
I say that too. It was so, when my family was making the decision, like, do we relocate here? Do we not? We were coming from a very nice area where people were nice, people cared, they held the door and just greeted you on the sidewalk. And so even when we were first exploring and trying to make this decision, like, people were so nice on the sidewalk and they would interact with my son and like just ask how our day was passing.
Did you ever have that skepticism though of like, is this real? Because I was way into the X-Files at that stage of my life, and I was like, what's going on here? These people are way too nice.
Yeah.
My first real hire, Laura Sutton, who's one of the head girls. I mean, it took me 2 weeks to really trust her because she was so nice. And now, 20 however many years later, we're still tight.
Yeah, before we made the full decision, like, yep, we're gonna uproot our whole family and go. I asked somebody here. I was like, I need you to be very, very honest with me right now. Is this town as good as it seems? And again, like every town has challenges and disagreements and things. I don't want to sound like utopia, but it really did just like every box we were looking for, it was checking off and seemed so good. And so I just had to ask, I'm like, I need you to be so honest. Is it as good as it seems?
Or did Leslie pay everyone to be really
right?
Nice?
And she told me, she's like, no, it's as good as it seems. And it really has, it's lived up to that. Yeah. But yes, I had that exact same moment. Like,
It's like Andy Griffith meets some even better version of that in the future.
Yeah. So tell me, I'm repping today, Virginia's for Magic Lovers. I love it so much. And I love how much Virginia loves it too. Tell me about Queen City Mischief and Magic. How would you define it for the world, the outside world hearing?
I mean, Staunton is always magical, but it's especially magical that weekend of the year. So it's almost always the fourth Saturday and Sunday of September. This year it's the 27th and 28th officially. And we just transform about 16 blocks downtown into scenes from storybooks and magic books. And we won't necessarily mention names of the series, but
we're not going to say the series, but it's a series.
And there's a very avid fan base. And, I was reading these books to my son thinking, gosh, it was already over. By the time I had a son, the last 7th book had come out. And I think at like book 2 or 3, I was thinking Staunton has every single thing in these books. We have a train station. We have that tiny little clock shop that's like the house that disappears in the 5th book. A great bookstore. We have, little sneaky hidey holes and sort of an underbelly. Like Baja itself has the sort of front-facing 3 broomsticks kind of place where kids hang out in Stewart Hall and whatever. And then we have the backside, the Baja Bar, that's a little bit darker and
Yeah.
generally more fun. And so, every year for the festival, we have a like javelina head with some bloody tail wrapped around and hanging over our door. It's like the rite of it knows it's that time of year when
Yeah.
when those screws go up outside for that thing, and it becomes a photo op.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's like a suspension of disbelief, and you happen into this town of really lovely, nice humans that we've been talking about, and we invite however many tens of thousands, 50, however many people show up. It's impossible to keep track of. Um, and they're all really nice.
Mhm.
And they are just happy to be here. And it's the perfect backdrop, with our historic buildings. And fortunately, almost all are intact, and everybody participates and does something
Yeah.
to endear themselves to the people that come. And what we have found is that Stanton has become almost a second hometown to these
Mm.
people. I remember the first year we did a whole weekend, this bus full of ladies from Nashville came to shop Small Business Saturday because they were like, this is what we associate with small business. It's like a whole, 4 blocks of Main Street and then beyond of small businesses that they loved. And it was like their adopted home away from home.
So they showed up during the festival?
They came for the festival, and then they came back
Oh,
for
okay.
Small Business Saturday in November.
Because we've had it in reverse at times of people have come not realizing what the weekend was, and they're like, "This is the craziest, most
Yeah.
amazing place." And I say this often, like, there's so much just, and I say it with love, there's so much not normal about this town. Like the fact that we can be a birthplace of a president and also like 40,000 wizards for a weekend is like that those things coexist in the same
Yeah.
space is just amazing. And so I think that's what's incredible is for this weekend and the lead up to it. So I just experienced my first QCMM
You nailed it.
and it was so much fun, and especially, like, the week leading up to it, like, anytime I'd go into a business, like, everybody was getting into it and buying into it and, just getting ready to tell this incredible story, and you see all ages participate. So we see 30, 40, maybe more thousand people
Yeah.
come in, to experience this weekend here in downtown Stanton. So this is a town of 25,000 people, like, well multiply the population, but you see like 5-year-olds all the way to
95
95 years old.
on walkers. Yeah.
Yeah, and all different levels of expression of some dress and participate and go all in, and others just enjoy the other side of it as an audience almost. And it is so fascinating. But one of and I've told this story many of times of places, but I would love for you to share. I know you said it started with like you and your son, but can you go back to like the very first year it happened? Like how did this all it was not
Right.
what it is now.
Every year it's getting bigger. It has gotten bigger and better. The first year, I was thinking about this morning getting ready because I spent I learned that the 8th book, it was like a follow up to the real series written by JK, um, was coming out, and I just heard it. Like I saw it on Facebook or something, and I texted Aaron Blanton at Puffer's Bellies, and I said, "Event question mark event exclamation point." And she said, "Can we meet?" And so we meet, and she's like, "This is not a book. This is a screenplay. It's not
Mm,
written by JK. It's like, it is authorized or whatever." But I knew there was going to be a book release at midnight. They could do a book release at midnight. All the things that happened with the original books. And I was out of the loop on the original books because I didn't have a son yet. Um, so Susan and Aaron, who are always the level heads, where it said, if we can get 8 people to stay open till 8 p.m., we'll do a midnight book release. And we were going to do it at Baja in the dining room, the 3 broomsticks, bright, happy, kid friendly side. We were going to have a birthday. It was on Harry Potter's birthday.
mm.
We were going to have a birthday cake for him. And I guess that's also J.K. Rowling's birthday. I know that it is. I don't know why I said I guess. So, I mean, by 2 o'clock that afternoon, I had 20 some people.
Mm.
I just went to the Gryffindor block, and it was the block where everybody's like, I don't really know. Literally every single person said, I don't really know anything about it, but we'll do it. And I'm like, okay. So I met again with Puffer Bellies, and I was like, we've already got 24 people just between me and cranberries, between Baja and cranberries. So we proceeded, and everything was just like homemade. I mean, everything got printed on my office printer, which I broke. I've broken a printer every single year. Um, Paul Borzelica, who has Modern Boy Wood Shop, he took like little scraps of signs. I don't know if you've ever seen our original signs, but they're all misshapen and cuckoo crazy. And but I told him, I was like, I have like $400. And he made 40 wooden signs with bases. And then we started every Tuesday night drinking a bottle of wine and painting signs in the Baja dining room after 9 o'clock, so that everybody had a sign. We made the maps all crazy, so they folded crazy. My servers did that. And then the day is starting to come, we're getting to the event. It's July 30th at midnight. It'll be the 31st and the books will be released. So it's a Saturday. And I don't even we are not marketing. We are not pushing. We are not. And it happened to show up on that only in Virginia, like only in your state thing.
Yeah.
And in less than 24 hours, it had like 28,000 shares or something. And so Cheryl, who was in your position at the time, caught wind of it and called an emergency meeting at the city. I think we were like 3 weeks out at this point. And Steve Rosenberg, who was the assistant city manager at that time, said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, I mean, I've been telling people we might get 500 or 1,000 people, but, they're not. Baja, sheltered all the buy-in and expenses or whatever. So there was no obligation or concern for commitment. And he's like, okay, all right, well, we'll have a plan B, which would be to shut the streets if you get enough more people.
Okay.
And that, sure enough, like Henry and I left our house, we got all dressed up in our wizard wear at like 7 a.m, and we were going to Cranberries to have waffles before it all started. And we had a whole plan. Like I had an itinerary where we were starting and how we were going. I had the insider's track. I knew how we were going to do our day. And we pull up at Cranberries, and there's a line out the door. There's some family that we met right away that had passed through on their way to Myrtle Beach this summer and came back from Canada for the festival. And Henry and that girl palled around all day. And I was so glad for them because I couldn't leave my business. Like we went to work and started, scooping ice and doing whatever and making butterbeer and up to our elbows in sticky cream soda cream business. And I just let my son, who literally has never had a babysitter, I let him go with these nice Canadian people and their daughter of his similar age to experience the day because I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And there was a magic to that. I would walk outside with a tray or two if I was feeling real frisky of butter beers, and I would have exactly the right number for a certain number of guests, and they would have the right change. They were making change for each other. They were putting money. It was just crazy. Everybody was so well behaved and happy and patient, and all day long I just cried. One thing that I think has completely defined the festival from that day forward is this woman who came up to me from Virginia Beach. She had 4 kids, including a little Hufflepuff bee, and I identified as Hufflepuff at the time, but Laura ousted me because she's nicer. And she said, I have never been able to bring my kids somewhere and get all of their faces painted. It's always been which one or which 2 can I afford to get. She's like, when I walked up to that face painter and I didn't have to tell my kids she said it was the greatest gift. And we just boohooed and hugged each other. And I was like, we're going to do this from now on. This is how we're going to do this thing. And so you literally can come on a plane or in your car or on your feet or on the train and spend no money and have the best time with your whole family, from babies that are, in a mandrake pot to your grandparents that are walking around in a walker. And it feels really good. And, occasionally it'll branch off. A lot of people are involved, so different things will happen. I remember the first year there were black market shirts, and I was like, we have arrived. There's a dude with a backpack.
The first time it's been a decade ago, the first time a festival I was organizing, I had protesters, not of the festival, but they're out there of other things. And people were like, how do we get it? I'm like, we have made it. That's so funny. Yeah, it really is. It's just, it feels good. And like, it's so easy to get emotional about it,
Yeah.
which is, wild, but it's so true, and I think, it the space and what you do reminds me so much of, like, my mom growing up. We didn't grow up with a ton, but she's always been so good at, like, creating something out of seemingly nothing,
Yeah.
and it just being like, "Oh my gosh, amazing."
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that, of, like, with your son,
Yeah.
like, with your son in tow, like, "You know what? We're gonna go create something awesome
Yeah.
together," and it's just
And it's so easy
blossomed.
with this crowd because it's magic. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
a chopstick can be a chopstick that
Yeah.
costs like $20 for 3,000, a case of 3,000. And then I just got washable markers and some little jewels, like the first however many kids probably got a little jewel on there. Um, it's a wand. I mean,
Mhm.
once these kids make it into a wand, they see it as a wand. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's great.
And I do wanna touch on, because I think something, I don't wanna just talk about the festival, because there's so much you're involved in, but something that really stood out to me, because like I said, I've worked over a decade in events and planning events, and when I attended QCMM this year for the first time, it threw what we describe as a festival, like, on its head, total. And what I mean by that is there's never a right or wrong way to do a festival or an event, but a lot of times you plan an event in, especially a community or downtown, and you look to bring vendors in, or experiences in, and then we hope there's traffic to businesses
Yeah.
almost. And the way you guys went about it was like a total reversal of that thought process. Not that there's a right or a wrong way of however you go about it, but I mean, you see dozens and dozens of businesses in town, brick and mortar, that have transformed their businesses. And all week, I loved it. I would pop into a restaurant or a shop or whatever it might be, and they're like, "Sorry, look around. We're getting ready for QCMM." I'm like, "Yes,
We're
thank
not
you."
doing real
They're like,
business
"We're
right
hanging on from the ceiling to let me know if you need to check out."
now.
And it was awesome. And so it really did. It was like the whole town buys into it. And from an economic side, I mean, nearly every business reports their largest day in
Yeah.
sales from it. But I guess for you, like, how did you create that buy-in from businesses to, like, own this experience, and why, what difference do you think it makes?
I mean, we have meetings, like all meetings, the same people attend, but my heart is here. Like my heart
Mhm.
is in downtown Stanton. I love it. I love all the area where we are, but I really love downtown Stanton. I try to shop downtown. I try to, and so from the beginning, it was like, this is going to be here and it's going to benefit the people
Mhm.
here. Partially just because of geography, and I never, ever, ever left my business other than to like feed my child or whatever back then. Um, but the first year, I talked about the woman with the Hufflepuff Puff bee.
Mm.
Another store 3 blocks away came down and said we weren't going to be open at Christmas, and now we will be
Mm.
because they did. I mean, they sold everything. Puffer Belly sent me a video on Monday morning after that festival. And she's like, "Why am I open?" She like scans with her phone, and it's like some fireballs in a little plastic container and like 3 stuffed animals. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you should just take the day off. And now we do that. Everybody be warned. Like a
Yeah.
lot of businesses close for 2 or 3 days afterwards
Yeah.
and catch up because we're working hard to get ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, what I love so much about the story, and I've told your story to rooms that you're not even in at times, especially when I talk to college students or those looking to start a business, is I think a lot of times we tend to think we can't make a difference or do something, we have an idea, if we don't have a certain title, or if we don't work in a certain field, or if we're not in a certain group or organization. And it doesn't, like, you were a business owner, you know very many people in the community, but um you didn't wait on the right situation. You were like, okay, if we can do this and this, we can do this. And I always use it as an example of, you don't have to believe you have to have a certain title to go make a massive impact. And massive impact is defined as many different
Yeah.
things. Like, it may be 40,000 people, but it also may be
500.
500. It may be 25 kids coming
Yeah.
out and enjoying a book together. Like, it's impact has all different scales, but it's impact
Yeah.
nonetheless, and it's done nonetheless.
And I
Yeah.
feel like in our town, like from the smallest scale to the biggest scale, we get that. 90 some percent of the places you walk in downtown, you get that level of service that you didn't believe existed anymore. And so those impacts are made constantly. I also feel like talking about having a title, that whatever the saying is about you don't even know what you don't know. Like, I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea that I could ask for permission anywhere, anytime for any of these things that I just started like printing and planning. And, now that this will be year 10, which feels amazing and a little bit tiring. And, it's gotten more complicated, but also more streamlined and thoughtful every year. You're wearing the Virginia's for Magic Lovers shirt. We got Virginia Tourism officially involved a couple years ago, and they've been such huge supporters, but that's like another whole level of details and crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Our city, because of that event, like started a special permit program where you have to like many months before you do anything, start meeting with people who may or may not be affected. So we all learned, and I really fortunately didn't have to apologize profusely because it was such a success, and these people were so I mean, if it had been the wrong crew, it could have gone also not as nicely. We had like a bee sting the first year, and then I think the second year we had a scraped knee.
Maybe both on you.
So, yeah, and the police, I mean, we were talking about the police before we started rolling. I didn't know that they did this. I don't know if you know the story, but I think it was Captain Brown did this. The first year that we moved to a weekend that we all kind of had our ducks in a row and knew what was going on. I was communicative, basically. The police ordered Harry Potter glasses, and and they put their own little Staunton Police Department stickers on them, and I didn't know they were doing it. And that sort of thing happens every year. Like, no matter how many fingers I think I have how many pies I think I have my fingers in, somebody does something that surprises me.
Public Works has special shirts. Like, I remember when they were going around, and it was so cool to see, like, when from the police side, the fire side, just enjoying it, but then also Public Works. I mean, they're working so hard just making sure the street stays cleared and everybody's, I mean, they're constantly moving during the weekend, and they have awesome shirts on, and like, we made sure to get them wands because there were two guys that were just so into it, but they wouldn't stop working. And I'm like, can you guys please just pause and come get a picture? I promise I'll take the blame if it's an issue. But like, they were just amazing on it.
Yeah.
And so I am curious from you, kind of from a personal side. So I don't know if I can say this or not. Many people call you the unofficial mayor of Staunton, and it's so funny.
That's not one of the words I was worried about.
Okay. No, you really are. People often say that, and so many times when people move in here, they're like, you got to go meet Sarah. I mean, you helped me find my house. You helped me find a daycare. Like, you served as a realtor. Like, here, you're on my board. Like, it's all these things, but you really do cultivate. I think that's the essence of this entire podcast, right? Like, you cultivate such I think I've called you like a professional community builder before. And it really is. I'm like, oh, that term really, in my mind, is such a great definition of you, because yes, from an economic driver, you've done incredible things for Staunton, but also within your business, like, it's become this safe space. Even, I was talking to Vanessa, who is now the executive director of American Shakespeare Center. When she was here 20 plus years ago as an actor, like, Baja was the place for them to become part of the community, even as a guest at that time. And you really, or jazzercise, whatever it might be, a book club, like, you really have this way of just creating a safe place for people to just be. Have you always been like, how do you think that has come to be?
Like, as far as safe places goes, I've never been afraid to say, oh, no, I'm not going to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm in my house, if I'm in my business, if I'm somewhere like, and we at Baja are really conscientious and careful about who's there, what they're talking about, how they're approaching people. And one of the proudest accomplishments for me is when I hear women say, I moved here when I was 22, and this is the only place I felt safe coming alone. And this has been since 1998. So it's like before it was even the way of the world. Um, I love that. And I
Mhm.
just can't imagine people not playing that role or advocating for
Mhm.
the person, the lone wolf or the underdog or the whatever. Connect, like the community builder. Nothing makes me happier than connecting people that I know are going to hit it off, have something in common, or that will either need each other or help each other or make each other happy. And I have so little time that I'm always trying to cram everybody. Like I'm like, you've come to jazzercise with me. I'm like, okay, I get to work out like 4 hours a week. Come with me. That's like spoken for. And so I just
Yeah.
bring people through that, because it's like me being selfish and wanting to like maximize my few hours that are out of work,
Yeah.
away from work, and get as many people in there as possible. And usually what I find is that they all love each other. I mean, almost everybody I love loves each other. So it's really
Imagine
nice.
that.
So I just sit back sometimes and think, this is great. Like
Yeah.
my birthday party used to be a bus ride over to Charlottesville, and I would sit in the basement of Moss Tapas and look at, 25 people from Charlottesville, from Staunton, and another 15 people from Charlottesville, and just think they all love each other as much as they love me, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I think I was born doing that, like just
Yeah.
making people be friends.
Well, you remind me, I think it's one of the reasons you work so well on the tourism advisory board here in Stanton as a component of tourism here in Stanton. I always say, there's many definitions of tourism. I could give the economic driver side of it. But really, what I call tourism is our job should be to be the glue. Like we get to work with everybody, like from the gas station to the police department, like everybody from a business to a startup. And so I always feel like our role is to know the best about all these groups and people, so when the right opportunity comes at the right time, we know how to bring it all
Yeah,
together and in what
like
people
activate.
enjoy. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's Sarah. So
Well, and I mean, I do this at work, the people that are good, like Hannah Scott is an amazing
yeah.
penmanship. So she does the things that are good that somebody that needs to cut precisely or write neatly, who is not me, um, and so then you're giving people plenty of opportunities to do the things they're good at.
Yeah.
Same with Harry Potter. I mean, Puffer Bellies, you're good at like figuring out how to make a bunch of kids happy, and so they do that. It could look like a thing that I am really good at, but all I am is like storing the information of
Mm.
who's good at things. Like Genevieve, our head girl, who can make every spreadsheet and whatever. I just send her things. I'm like, this looks like your ball of wax. This looks like your thing. You will love this. And sure enough, like not only does she do it, but she does it better than I would have expected or knew that it could be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Um, so it's almost like just getting out of people's way and letting them do the thing they're best at.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I am curious for you because you do have your hands in a lot of pies. I have never heard that expression maybe it is one, but I'm gonna start saying it all the time. Um, how do you I know you're talking about even, like, bringing people into different times that you have set aside. How do you find joy or grounding or recentering, however you want to describe it, between all these things that you're in? How do you just recenter and reground yourself?
I do like this is a very recent thing for me just because, owning a business is a lot. Owning a restaurant is like more than that. And getting older is another thing. So I have started like once every 2 weeks of just I have a pink blocked off day that I'm like I say yes to nothing that day. If I wake up that day and decide I want to like take a whirlwind tour up to DC and see my college roommate or whatever, but it's free. Like I
Mhm.
just have a day every 2 weeks where I have nothing on the docket. And then the rest of the time it's kind of just crammed in there. But I remember when I was 23 and Ron sent me over here like an envoy from Charlotte. So like, go to Stanton and make friends. I We'd sit down every 6 months and he'd give me an evaluation and I would usually get a raise and I would be like, I would do this for free. Like, I can't believe I get paid to do this. Every day when I took a shower, I was like, I get paid to have a party every day, like it's so suited me. And so I just kind of ooze that joy because
Yeah.
when you get to do the thing that you love to do, it's really Awesome. It's been tricky. I mean, with COVID, people have kind of lost the clarity about what coming to a pub or a bar and meeting strangers or meeting up with friends. We've kind of lost that a
Mm,
little bit. And so this year, that's my whole thing is like connection. It's got to happen
mm,
because that's how I'm happiest when I'm like
yeah.
having real strong connections with people. I would like them to be organic, but often they're not forced, but they're, planned
Mhm.
nowadays. And it doesn't matter. I just have to show up and do it. And then I feel recharged and refreshed.
Yeah.
I also took a 3-week vacation last year for the first time ever in my life. And it was
Went
amazing.
abroad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came back from that feeling 20 years younger. So
Yeah.
I want to try to do that every couple years.
We at Visit Stanton also suggest traveling often, but it really does. I think traveling has always taught me, one, we're not nearly as different as we all think we are. I mean, I think the way we express things are very different or staggered, but at our core, like our family and what we believe, and it is
Yeah,
like that's our root,
yeah,
and I think most humans are connected to that in some aspects. So you realize, like, okay, you're not as far out there as you
yeah.
think you are. And also just that recharging of if you travel, hopefully you're connecting with other people. And like I'm notorious for getting turned around or lost somewhere, and I'm like, oh, it's a great time to
Say hi.
my
Bonjour.
my mom used to always say, because she was the same way when we would travel, of just getting turned around the wrong direction. She's like, look, listen, as long as I have money in my pocket and gas in my tank, I'm not lost. I'm just on an adventure. And I'm like, okay, mom, but also we're like 30 minutes out of the way. But it's true. It's a great time just to ask people
Yeah.
where you are and what's going on and what conversations
Since
happen
I'm
from
here,
that.
what cool things are there to do here? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to meet your mom, by the way.
You guys would hit it off so much.
We might
I would
take off
almost be
like
afraid of you
Thelma
guys
and
being in the
Louise.
same room together. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So on that side of things, kind of as a last bit, and you've sort of answered it in a way, but you've had so many experiences over your career that's still going strong. Are there any lessons that stand out that you think that you would like to share with anybody? Or if there's, you know what? Let me rephrase,
Okay.
because I know you came to Stanton when you were what, 23.
Hmm.
You're running a whole restaurant, a business. It has now trickled into all kinds of things now, from the restaurant to events and everything in between. Somebody that's 23, like what lesson would you share with a 23-year-old wanting to do something that they care about
I
and
mean,
have
it's funny because I
impact?
have a 21-year-old, so
Yeah.
and I think it's a different culture, but
Mm,
just do something. Like, be adventurous. Don't be afraid that you're gonna fail
mhm.
all the time. It's great. Like, don't fail big. Like fail little and fail small, and you know, hedge your bet so that it's not like life-changing disaster if you do fail. But you don't sometimes, like, not knowing what you don't know is okay. And I remember when I started Baja, Ron, my business partner, who was like a dad to me for forever, and then I realized actually we're kind of almost the same age because that happens when you get older. Um, he would call and say, "Can I do this? Let me do." I was like, "I just need to do it. Like, just let
Mhm.
me try to set up the beer guys and try to set up the Pepsi guys and try, because if you do it, then I can't
Yeah.
keep up with it, or I can't do it again if I open another one of these for you or whatever." Um, so just like taking on things that using your brain to figure out how to do something new. And yeah.
Yeah.
My dad also, one of my favorite pieces of advice that I've gotten in my whole life, he said, never do anything for money you wouldn't do for free. And I think that
Oh,
that's pretty important.
yeah.
And when he said it to me, I was like, I don't even know what that means. And then when I found myself telling Ron, you don't have to give me a raise. I can't believe it. I was like, okay, this is what my dad
Yeah.
said, you know.
Dad's a smart cookie.
He is a smart cookie. He's still barking at my tree every day. He called me yesterday. I was like, Dad, I don't feel well. Can we talk tomorrow?
I
So,
love it. You've
yeah,
got a good crew. You got good people around you, and you've
I
built good
do.
people around
I
you.
do. And I'm so lucky. Like, Baja is full of people that could do anything, and they choose to be there. And they, again, before it was like the thing that everybody did. We had health insurance, we had paid vacation, 1998, we
Yeah.
had that stuff. Um, and people would come in and go, "You're so lucky you have people that have been here 17, 20, whatever." Clinton's been there since 1999, on and off. Um, and I'm like, well, they get treated well and they get to use their own brains and judgment, and they're supported in that capability. And it's worked out well. I'm not knock on wood. I got like 10 more years of this and then I might get to travel more.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome.
time today. QCMM coming up.
10, QCMM
Yep.
10, which is crazy.
Yes. And how can people keep up with all the stuff you've got going on?
The most up-to-date information for both Baja and QCMM is on Facebook. Our websites lag a little bit, but they will eventually be verdant and informative.
Yeah.
A lot of something that, like, if anybody's listening to this that doesn't understand, like, behind the curtain, there are a lot of moving parts for QCMM and Baja, but especially QCMM. People that I don't see every day, people that I see at a meeting every 2 months or something, and then it all comes together at the end.
Mhm.
And so people will be like raising a ruckus from, Seattle or Alaska or wherever, and we don't know what's happening. And I'm like, just trust, there's more to do than you'll have time to do it.
Yeah.
I promise you that. And sure enough, once we start loading it into the scheduling software, there's like 800 individual events that can happen for you, many of which are free, and some of them cost $5 or $20 to see a play or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you brought up Vanessa, because Shakespeare's getting more involved,
Yes.
which is really exciting. And they were the thing that changed our trajectory in this town the most, I think, like year round, was Shakespeare. And I don't ever want to forget that. And I don't want our business, my business colleagues to forget that, because we opened in 1998 and it was a pleasant growth until Shakespeare. And then it was, and we just stay that way. And then in September, it jumps way up again. And then, so it's nice to see that, like, slow and steady growth, and then the bump that happens for my event. So
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And if anybody nearby the Staunton area is listening to this and wants to be involved, volunteer opportunities are always open and available for the event year round. There's always a place to plug in and become part of the community. Like we say, the little magic community.
I didn't talk as much as I normally do about the other people, but we have the weekend of 80 to 90 volunteers. We have 100 characters that work all year round. Like they just had their first rehearsal this weekend in this building, the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, because I was gone. And they work all year to just pull it off. And there'll be a cast of like 100 or more characters every year. The train people, last
characters
year,
literally arrive on a train, people.
And last year we had our first night train. So like every year we try to do something new, and we had a night baddies train on Saturday, and I was like a kindergartner. I was squealing and jumping up and down like I had never been to this thing, and it was awesome. I had so much fun. Yeah, it's just another thing I was going to tell you. The dean of Harry Potter College, John something, Mary Baldwin brought him in as a speaker one year, and he showed up, and they were running around on that Thursday trying to find me and introduce us. And he said, "I've been to every single festival of this type that exists, and I've never seen anything this big and coordinated." And like, he was trying to give me credit for that. And I'm like, listen, everybody just has to get in line. Like, I don't have time to coordinate all this. I just say, this is what we're doing and when we're doing it, and everybody does it, It's like, that's the magic of Staunton. So it's a lot of people and a lot of time.
A lot of people, and there's a place for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a place for volunteers. And if you're good at anything, that
we will find something for you to be good at there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for the magic you bring, Staunton, and all of us. And I appreciate you. So come out, come ready for QCMM, come hang out at Baja. It's the best quesadilla I have around. I love it so much.
Our new menu will be up by March 1st. So
Ooh.
I was thinking it was actually going to be this weekend, but
I like the little sweet spicy shrimp quesadilla, but it is getting close to lunch.
We've got all kinds of other things. We've got brunch coming. We've got carnitas. Like a lot of cool stuff is coming. Falafel, which I'm excited about. Yes. Which is so weird for anybody that hasn't been to Baja, but we do healthy Mexican. We do healthy California style Mexican. Yeah. So we have a ton of vegan things. And so it felt like a really good ad because people don't do soy like they used to. We still have soy riso, but to have something plant-based is nice.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you all listening for the first episode. The U is silent. We are. Keep joining us for the episodes to come. This is going to be a limited series. Maybe more. We'll find out as we go along.
The U is silent. We aren't.
The U is silent.
And we are never silent.
We are not.
There's so much activity here in this tiny little town.
All the things.
I know.
So, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Subscribe and keep listening every 2 weeks.